Hey everyone, how's it going? It's your boy Skilled Fawn, and today we are going to be doing an Elden Ring challenge run. Let's waste no time and get straight into the rules. Starting off, I cannot die, aka no deaths. Dying can be from enemies, bosses, and gravity, or maybe a combination of them. I will have to try my best to be patient and cautious while navigating the lands between. Next, I must beat the game. Afterwards, I can use glitches and or exploits during the run. Lastly, no spirit summons slash NPC summons. Spirit summons are friendly helpers that cost FP or health to summon, and NPC summons are other tarnish that can help in boss battles. We will not be using them in this run. I am really excited to share this run with you guys. I spent a lot of time and many attempts going through this. Let's jump straight into the run. Starting off, we head into Godric's fight and take him out alongside Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy. Next up, we face off against a boss that can easily end runs, and that's exactly what happened. This boss is most of the time very easy, or at least manageable, but in certain instances, he decides to go full spam mode and just blast me into oblivion. Well, our first run lasted a fairly long time, but we did unfortunately die. In my next attempt, I wanted to get some extra talismans for damage and defense. Where I was at in my run, I decided to go towards Alexander to get his shard. Really unlucky, but the attack that he did caused me to fly off the side of the cliff and die. Super, painful. Getting to a similar point of the first run, we get near the end game. I was super nervous of Farum Azula because of its high damaging enemies, but also just navigating around. This time around, gravity was not my friend. In our fourth attempt, we also get super close to the end game. This time, I was really impatient and not as cautious as I usually am. This cost me a ton, as the birds swooped in and they unfortunately made really quick work of me. The fifth attempt, I knew that I needed to change my strategy a bit in order to complete the challenge. As I was progressing through the beginning of the game, I was thinking of what to do. At the beginning of the game, the player has to fight Grafted Scion, as jumping off the side will give the "you died" message. If the player does fall to the boss, it doesn't count as a death, as the message doesn't pop up. Or if you actually take him down and then progress to the right, there's a small path, and you actually don't die from that. Afterwards, we go and grab the first half of the Dectus medallion, and then go towards Grail to get some nice early game runes. Once we dispatch of her, we will be able to level our vitality to a manageable range. I also dump some points into dexterity to increase my weapons damage, and save some runes for when I traverse the map in case I want to purchase something from merchants. Pretty much the beginning parts of my Elden Ring challenge runs are a lot of prep work. I like to do this at the beginning so I'm not rushing around mid to late game looking for items. Eventually we get the last Dectus medallion half and then go towards Weeping to get some Sacred Tears. Sacred Tears allow me to upgrade my flask, so when I heal it will actually give more health the higher its Sacred Tear level is. There are plenty of these churches around the map that can help the player progress through the game. We head into Liurnia and talk to Raya. Raya can give the player easy access to Mount Gelmir, where Rykard resides, by giving over her necklace and talking to her at the top of Dectus Lift. Next, I want to get some mixed flask components since I have already picked up a fair amount of talismans and other items I wanted. The two mixed flask things that I wanted are located in Caelid and Weeping Peninsula. Since we were already in Weeping, it made it really, convenient, and also in Caelid, the boss that's there, I already ran past previously, so, I didn't have to travel super far. Both of these defensive components are really, great, such as one giving extra defense for a long period of time, and the other is your first hit, the damage will basically be extremely minimal. After taking down both of the avatars, we get the items and progress towards Castle Stormvale. I should mention by this point we have reached the capital and acquired many golden seeds to upgrade our flasks. This is alongside going to the various bosses and areas to collect the smithing stone bell bearings to upgrade my weapons. We currently are at a 12 or plus 12 Uchi katana, which will be great for these early game bosses. As I'm sure you may have noticed with Margit's fight, it has been great having the defensive mixed flask, as this eats up enemies' attacks, allowing me to stay in the fight longer. Sooner or later, we take him down and head towards Godric. With Godric, he is very similar to Margit in regards to them both being pretty weak to my weapon's damage. This is our first shard bearer, which will help us get into the capital. I mentioned that I went into the capital, but really this was the outskirts, as the player needs 2 great runes in order to actually enter the city. These can be acquired from Godric, Renala, Rykard, Radahn, and Mohg. Morgott is in the capital, so it wouldn't really make sense to get his great rune to enter the city. And Malenia, you actually need to defeat Morgott to have the opportunity to get into the consecrated snowfields. Out of all the shard bearers, Godric is the weakest, which is great as this lets me ease up a bit before all the crap that comes later. Eventually, we acquire our first great rune and progress towards Mount Gelmir. The next boss in our way is Godskin Noble. This fight has really grown on me. I've always liked this boss's music, but at the release of the game, I wasn't the biggest fan of him. Since RL 1+0, I have had a lot of experience with him and Apostle. The good thing about this fight is that he can be parried to then go for a riposte. I like to do this for his first phase, and then when he goes roly-poly mode, you then sleep pot him into oblivion. This way, I'm taking things as cautiously as possible. With time and patience, we take him down and head towards Rykard. Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy, is the last shard bearer we need in order to get into the capital. Rykard has 2 phases, with the first being just the serpent, and then the second phase, him pulling out a massive sword to then go ham. And his second phase, he actually does do some serpent attacks with the head that's kind of just dangling down, but it's usually after some of his combos, and it's, just maybe 1 extra attack. Thankfully, he has a ton of playstyles to combat him, and my favorite is the stun lock cheese that you can do. Using the Ash of War, the player can continually stun him when he tries to slam his foot down, which is just so funny, seeing him just slam and then just get stunned over and over. We take him down and then enter the capital. Blocking the entrance to the capital is DTS. There's nothing really to note in this fight, but one thing that I should note is I could have made this fight a lot easier if I did the parry cheese and then knock him off the cliff. I am not the most comfortable with this cheese, and so I figured fighting him normally would be best. Near the top of the city, we find Goldfree. He has relatively low health and doesn't deal the most damage, but this is a great introduction to new players for some of the later game bosses. One thing that this fight will yield is another talisman slot. Currently we have 3, and once we take him down we will have 4. This will allow me to use a plethora of different talismans to get better damage, more defense, or maybe just have higher stamina or something. The options are limitless. We take him down and go towards the top of the capital. Sneaking our way past an assassin, we find ourselves fighting Morgoth, the Omen King. Quite the opposite of Godric and Rykard, Morgoth is extremely agile and easily capable of closing the gap with a player. He has many attacks, though these attacks can be punished afterwards or during the animation if the player is playing aggressively. It does help that our weapon is plus 12, so we are getting some really nice damage on him. In his phase 2, he gains a bunch of blood attacks. It's actually really unfortunate that they changed his intro cutscene. I forgot exactly which patch, but I'll put it on screen, the original compared to the patch version. They made his weapon and fight look a lot cooler beforehand, but these are just, my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below which version you like more. Eventually we take him down, and this is about the midway point of the game, and so things are going to get a lot tougher. Afterwards, we go into one of my least favorite bosses arena, which is Fire Giant. I actually don't mind his first phase, but his second I strongly dislike, which is actually kind of funny because from what I've seen online, maybe it's different from what you guys have seen, but it seems like a lot of people actually hate his phase 1 but enjoy his phase 2 more. So I don't know, it's just it's interesting to note. The thing that I especially hate or dislike is his crazy fire and rolling maneuvers, and these can be really frustrating to deal with. But this isn't as crazy as almost 99% of people watching this video are not subscribed. If you enjoy this type of video and content, be sure to subscribe, as it really helps to support me and the channel more than you could imagine. Let's go towards Farum Azula. Once we defeat Fire Giant, we set the Erd Tree ablaze with Melina's sacrifice and enter Farum Azula. Here we find a few bosses, tough enemies, and a plethora of hard areas to navigate through. The various packs of beastmen that roam around alongside the various platforming sections just make this area tedious, where the player has to focus on their surroundings at nearly all times. This was definitely the hardest section of the game. Subsequently, we go into Godskin Duo's fight. These two are a lot of fun. Kind of funny, but also sad is that I spent nearly 10 to 12 hours on just one stream trying to take these guys down for RL1+0. Oh gosh, not something I ever want to repeat. That was an extremely tough challenge on top of a duo boss fight, which, any duo or trio boss fight is going to be difficult. So it took a lot of practice. In this challenge though, we have everything at our disposal, so we were able to get some really nice damage and, if hit, not receive a ton of damage. One thing that destroys these bosses and is a cheese in of itself is the sleep pots. These absolutely destroy them, allowing the player to get a ton of free damage. I am a lot more familiar with Noble, and so usually I will focus on him if I don't use sleep pots, but since I am using them, I have to do that in this run. With time and patience, we take them down and move on. Next, we head to the round table and upgrade our Uji Katana and our bow to plus 24. I decided last minute that it would be great to have an upgraded bow for the annoying birds in Farum Azula. We go towards the birds and grab a physical damage resistant talisman on the way. The bow didn't have the best damage, but was quite manageable. It would take 2 Mighty Shot Ash of Wars to put the birds down. On one of my previous attempts when I died, I think it was the second attempt, maybe the third, but when I did die, I actually went through and practiced with just the Uchi so I could figure out how to deal with the birds. That's when I thought of the bow idea, since this class starts with one. And usually, kind of funny, but usually in challenge runs or just if I play off stream, I run through those birds and I mean, I definitely have had some problems in the past, but usually, it's without incident. So this run definitely showcased something a lot different. You get past those cursed birds and go into Malekith the Black Blades fight. This is one of my favorite bosses in Elden Ring, and I consider myself fairly decent at this fight, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I am definitely a lot better in his phase 2 than his first, but I am able to read most if not all of his attacks. The thing about phase 2 is to be as aggressive as possible, and this will usually yield a riposte or two. Eventually we acquire the Rune of Death and go towards Ashen Capital. In Ashen Capital, where we fought Godfrey, we find Sir Gideon Ofnir. I mentioned near the beginning, but this guy sucks, and it's a challenge run breaker. It may seem like an easy boss, which he definitely can be at times, but certain instances he just decides to mess the player up as much as possible. I could definitely write a whole paper on how frustratingly difficult this boss is, especially, if not all the shard bearers are defeated. Essentially, each time a shard bearer is defeated, Sir Gideon will gain a spell or incantation from them. For example, if you take down Melania, he will use her flower attack. If you take down Moog, Lord of Blood, he will do the blood flame splash on the ground, and so on. His base spells are really good on top of him dealing more damage from the debuff that he puts on the player. So yeah, it's just on paper he is actually extremely tough boss, but I think in actuality he's not the toughest. I guess it's all dependent on your build, play style, and some other variables. With blood, sweat, and tears we take him down. At the top of the capital and beside the Erd Tree, we find Godfrey's true version. Godfrey is a quick and agile boss with a ton of area of effect moves. He is another one of my favorite bosses, and so I have his moves down pretty well. The tough thing about Godfrey, Malekith, Sir Gideon, and the other late game bosses is that they hit like trucks. I thankfully have those mixed flask components on top of some talismans for extra defense, but still. Sooner or later, Godfrey is put 6 feet under and we enter the final boss battle. Radagon and Elden Beast are the final 2 bosses in Elden Ring and are considered fairly difficult. Out of the 2, I would have to say that Elden Beast is much harder, but they are definitely close in difficulty. With a nearly maxed out katana and a fairly leveled character, we are able to get medium to high damage on them. I would have liked to bring another blue flask so I could use my unsheath Ash of War more, but I didn't want to risk having one less red flask in case an incident occurred. With Elden Beast, it's about reading which area of effect attack is next, since basically all of his combo moves are some form of it. The Elden Stars incantation is one of them, and I still dread to this day. Luckily, we do have a lot of health, so we were able to take a few hits, but still not something I want to do. Eventually, we take down Elden Beast, and yeah, this is Elden Ring No Death. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I spent a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears on this. It was a really fun challenge, I have to say. With Sekiro, I was able to actually do it in one attempt, and with Elden Ring, it took like 5, and shortly you'll see 2. But I actually just last night did Demon Souls No Death and completed that in one attempt. So yeah, it's just interesting to see that Elden Ring took me the longest. Thank you guys for coming and watching the video. Make sure to like, comment, and or subscribe if you haven't. Expect a bunch of Elden Ring, Sekiro content soon. I also plan to post some Dark Souls 1 PS2 challenges and Demon Souls soon, like I mentioned. Thank you guys again, and have a fantastic day. Try and do something kind for someone. And this is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.